My name is Oscar Longoria, and I currently work at the Dow Chemical Company in Seadrift. I work at the oxide plant there. Um, I've been working for Union Carbide, Dow Chemical for this is my 31st year, so I've been around for a while. And my current role is an improvement manager. That's the name of that's the title of my role, but I've been in the automation uh, field for most of my career, and I still am pretty involved with automation. But what I wanted to just describe is what that field entails, how I got there, and some of the things that are required as far as career development go, and describe to you a bit of what it is that that role would do. So I have a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from Texas A&I University, and currently I believe that there are specialized degrees in control systems or process automation. So when I graduated, they were not focused specifically on controls or on automation. I started with like I said, a bachelor's in electrical engineering. But if one would want to go into this field now, you would definitely start with a bachelor's in engineering degree, either a chemical, uh, electrical, mechanical, and like I said, now they are specialized in the field of control systems or automation. So what does an automation engineer do? What the what the field is, and if I was to try to summarize it, is you try to take advantage and utilize computers, and you try to utilize technology to, as the word says, automate. You want to remove from the hands of operators the human intervention, and use, like I said, technology, computers, and in some cases robotics to better improve the process, to better control. We know that computers, they do a lot of things the same way over and over, and that's what we want to take advantage of. Automation engineering fields can be in the chemical industry, which is what I've been in here in for the last 30 years. It can also be in manufacturing, similar to an automobile assembly line type of industry. Manufacturing also uses a lot of automation. But the role of an automation engineer is to design, to work with the operations group, and I'll focus a little bit more in my field, which is the chemical industry. Uh, Before I got to Union Carbide, uh, I had no clue of the chemical industry. I grew up in an area where there were no chemical plants. I think the area here and a lot of our younger people are exposed to these careers, and that's great. And I think that this is an opportunity to show some of these individuals that are looking for careers in plants, the options that are out there. I really didn't have a clue. I didn't know what was there as far as in chemical industry. My thoughts, uh, why I got to automation, why I liked it, is because as an electrical engineer, I had always thought about working with control systems, working in different industry, communications or robotics, but it didn't work out. And I was hired at the Union Carbide plant in Seadrift, and I started a career there as control systems engineer. And Raquel mentioned the special training. It's very important that individuals looking into this field, you need a bachelor's in engineering. But the other thing you need to remember is that you will receive a lot of the specialized training when you get to the plant that you're working with. And the control systems platforms that are utilized, a lot of the schools, a lot of the universities don't specialize in them. But when you get to the place that you're going to work at, they will give you specialized training in those platforms. And the focus of an automation engineer, a process control engineer, is what can you do to improve the ability of the facility to run safely and be more efficient and be more effective in the production. In the case of our chemical industry, I've worked at several plants, and what you want to do, and the focus of the automation engineer, is to look for opportunities to make things easier for for the operators that are operating the plant. You look for opportunities to minimize waste. You look for opportunities to improve throughput production, and also you look for opportunities to make the plant safer. If I was to describe a typical day in a control systems or automation engineer uh, uh, life of an automation engineer, there's two things that you would do as an automation engineer. You would be focused either on implementing projects or providing day-to-day support for a chemical industry. So I'll take, for example, the plant that we're at now. The plant that we're at now is an ethylene oxide plant. It makes a very reactive chemical. We have to handle it with care. So above all, safety first. One of the things the automation engineer gets involved with is the safety control systems. How can we prevent the plant from having a safety incident? And that's very important. As an automation engineer, you're very involved with the implementation of projects that protect the plant from going outside the normal bounds, the normal bounds of the process. You work with computers. Basically, they're very advanced computers. They're very fast, and they monitor the system. So the system, the computers, they will interact with field devices, devices that are out uh, in the plant, connected, monitoring pressures, monitoring uh, flows, monitoring temperatures, and you're making sure that things don't get to an unsafe condition. Uh, that is that falls squarely in the automation engineer's field of work. You design systems. You design the logic in the computers to say we cannot allow this this line or this vessel or this column to get above this temperature, above this pressure. If this happens, we must shut down immediately. That is automated. You try to get that out of the operator's hands. So that's one big job in an automation engineer's field of work. You get involved with projects that design those. So you identify in the chemical industry, you work with very volatile materials, and you work with process safety engineers. You work with the operations folk, and you find out what are the unsafe boundaries, and you work to design the computer systems to not allow the plant to go there. So that's one of the things that's really important in the automation engineer's field of work, designing safe operations. So if we think about that as if you think about those as the lines on the road, right? Don't get outside of the lines on the road. Now we're going to operate safely within those boundaries. And I wanted to mention that first because sometimes when we think about automation engineering process control, we always think about improving things, making things faster, making things better. But I do want to stress that at least in our plant, one of the things that we stress on a lot is safety, the safe handling of the material because of what we make and what we produce. And so we want to take that out of the human. Uh, we don't want to impose that on operations, and we want to help them out to monitor the plant safety. So that's a big part of automation. Now we can talk about uh, improving the plant. So if you think about how we improve the plant, you can always find uh, opportunities to make the plant more efficient. And again, it can be simple, it can be very complicated, and sometimes you rely on projects. So, for example, you can have a project that we're going to eliminate the manual operation of a certain piece of equipment, and that for the automation engineer, that's going to be a project in his field of work. You're going to the automation engineer would work with instrumentation specialists to identify, specify the right instrumentations, the instrumentation that goes into the field, and the right control valves. And the automation engineer would then design the program or the code that would operate that equipment. Um, it's more than it does require uh, programming, but it's more than a computer software programmer. And that's why it's highly recommended that if you're going to go in, at least into the chemical industry, you have a bachelor's in chemical engineering or electrical engineering or mechanical engineering, so that you can also have that background to go along with it. Certainly, computer science would work, but there's going to be a lot more than just the programming. So if one is thinking about sitting in an office and just writing out code, that's not what an automation engineer would do. There's a lot of field interaction. You have to go look and understand what it is that the equipment that you're going to work with. And so you're basically involved with a lot of physical installations. So in the project side of things, that's how an automation engineer interacts with the plant. You work with a group of individuals to improve the plant. Somebody identifies the opportunity, and you work on a project to implement it. Now, on a day-to-day operation, they also you're also involved on day-to-day operation, and a typical day in the plant worker, if anybody knows people that work at the plant, you know that it's very unpredictable, because there could be a problem with the computers that are running the system. There could be a problem with some piece of code or with the piece of equipment out in the field, and it's usually the automation engineer that gets called on to help troubleshoot, to help find the problem. So there's always see it as two sides. You're working on projects to improve the plant, but you're also working on day-to-day operation, and you're helping out uh, the plant operation group with problems that come up on a daily basis. So those are the things that, as an automation engineer, you would be involved with, and you progress. I've been there, for 30 years. You see the bigger and bigger projects as you go along in your career, and that's something that would be expected in any field, I think. But as you progress and uh, you improve on your skills, there's a lot of opportunities. Now, I know a lot of chemical engineers that have started out off in the plant that have moved into the automation world because they like the control aspect of it. They like to be involved um, with implementing projects that do improvements. And so, if there is not if an individual doesn't get a degree in control systems engineering, you can always move into that, depending on what company that you go to work for. So that is what I have. Or what would describe my role as an automation engineer. The other thing that's very satisfying, at least it's been satisfying for me, is working on projects that you can see the savings that you provide a plant. I've been very blessed to be on large projects, and you it is a lot of demand. There is a lot of there's no denying that sometimes the working at a plant is very demanding, but it's also very rewarding and satisfying. Like I said, I've been on projects where there was nothing there, and you work with a team of individuals. You implement either a piece of equipment, you improve on something, and you see the fruits of your labor. You see, you find that you're saving money. You see that operations are easier for the people that are running the plant, and that becomes very satisfying. And how has this whole COVID-19 affected us? Uh, we've been working from home since March 16th, I believe. And the thing about the way we work is that currently I'm involved a lot with projects, and so there's a lot of meetings that we have, a lot of discussion that we have, and because of computers, because of uh, web meetings that we have like this one, we're able to discuss a lot of the things, work on a lot of the design, make a lot of the decisions before we actually go to implementation in the field. Uh, there is there are things that I cannot do from home. So what you have to do is you have to find those things that you can group together, and you can go to the plant maybe once every 2 weeks to take care of. But for the most part, because of computers and because we have servers that we can access, we can do a lot of our work from home. And so, at least in my role, it has not caused a big interruption. Now, the plant is continuing to work. The plant is running. It's 24/7 operation. There's operators that are operating the plant. So, very often we get a phone call, a chat, an email that says, "Hey, I see this problem. Hey, do you know what's going on with this?" It's a nice thing that we can look at trend. We can look at process data on our computers at home, and we can help troubleshoot. If need be, we can always go to the plant to find out, what may be going on. They become our eyes and ears. We call the control room. We say, "Hey, what's going on with this? Can you go out there and look at that?" There's individuals that we could also call that do maintenance and say, "Hey, help me out." We've gotten creative. We have people send us photos and pictures, and what does this look like? So the plant continues to operate. The plant continues to work, and we can troubleshoot because of technology. We can troubleshoot and continue to help the plant in that manner. Now, again, we're not limited. As long as we do it safely, we can go to the plant and help out in problems that we do have. But that's how we've been affected by COVID-19. Uh, Dow has been very responsible in the guidelines that they've given us, and they have minimized all risk. So I feel very comfortable in how the company as a whole has handled this COVID-19 issue that we've had, and things continue to operate around the globe. One of the things that I do in one of the roles that I have is I have to maintain production numbers for several plants, and I've seen records being broken in even in these tough times. So, and this is thanks to a lot of people that, like myself, have to support the plant remotely. So we have to thank the folks that are running our plants. They're there 24/7, our operators, maintenance, but we've been allowed to help through technology and remotely troubleshoot and continue to help the plant to operate. So just to summarize, automation engineer, sometimes there as individuals want to go into this field, you may look for it as a self-standing degree. But one of the things I did want to stress is that it may not be there as a degree, an automation engineer, control systems engineer. The message I wanted to get across is you do need an engineering degree, and it could be in chemical, it can be in electrical or mechanical engineering. And if that is your interest, there are specializations at the college level. There are classes that you can take if that's what you want to do. But a lot of chemical engineers realize that that's what they want to do once they get into their field of work, once they get to the plant. And it for me, it's been a very rewarding, it's been a very interesting field. I have really enjoyed it, and I hope I can continue to contribute in this field in the years that I still have remaining with the company. So, and that's what I wanted to share with everybody. I don't know if there are any questions. I'll take the first question. It's an interesting question. Our business, we divide our business is our business is named Dow Industrial Solutions, and we have plants, yes, around the globe. And so typically, some of our meetings may start at 6:30. Most of the folks that there's individuals we work with in Terneuzen, Netherlands, and in Spain. So for them, they're a lot earlier. They're 7 hours apart from us. So we typically try to do 6:30, 7 o'clock. But I have not found myself to be um, any more than 4 or 5. So 6:30 or 7 is about the earliest. But it really doesn't matter for myself because 6:30 is usually the time I get to my desk. Um, Correct. The next question says, what suggestions of extracurricular activities do you suggest a high school student get involved with? if they decide to pursue career in automation engineer. I know there's a lot of now. 30 years ago, there was not robotics clubs, at least not in the high school I went to. Anything in robotics is great, number sense, anything with math and science, but robotics is probably the best field that I would suggest anybody looking to go into automation engineer. What soft skills are necessary for someone within your role? One thing I've learned over 30 years is the things they don't teach you in school is people skills. And to me, how you communicate. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not saying that everybody needs to be an extrovert, but you do have to have a certain level of communication with individuals, how you get along, and and how well you get along with other individuals. I think that's very important. Respect above all things. One thing that I learned very early on in my engineering career is just because I am an engineer with a 4-year degree and I work with operators who did not have a 4-year degree, that means nothing. At least I've learned that they were a lot more knowledgeable than I was at the process. So a bit of humility, soft skills, a bit of humility in my book goes a long ways. Um, if a student is diagnosed with a disability, could they still acquire a role as an automation engineer? I think most definitely that the way our world functions now is so many disabilities we have a way to overcome, and we have a way to still function in a normal sense. And so, yes, I do believe that the technology is there to allow them to work in an automation engineering field. The only thing I will say is going out into the field may be a bit difficult, but as I described, there's always people that you can count on to help you be eyes and ears out in the field. So, yes, I do believe that people with special disabilities can have a degree or have a career in automation engineering. What do you know now you wish you had known in high school? What would you tell a student who wants to go into this field? Well, the first thing is I had no clue what a chemical plant was when I was in high school. And so one thing I would want to tell people now is to look at uh, the chemical industry. I think it's a challenging field, and it's a very rewarding field. And I think this area, the Victoria area, Port Lavaca area, has a lot to choose from. But I would certainly not want to limit them to this area. Just expand Corpus Christi, and so. This is the message that I would want to share that I didn't know that there is a whole industry out there that is it's demanding, but it's very rewarding, and you can make a career out of it. So
What, if any, training have you received on how to work with coworkers, vendors, customers from other cultures?
we did have we do have, and lately it's been a lot of focus on inclusion. And I'm going to say this about Dow Chemical is they're they're a global, they're a very diverse company, and continuously, we are reminded about how we should treat everybody with respect. And I think the fact that you interact with people from so many parts of the world, that in and of itself makes you aware that we're not the only ones here. There's a lot of other cultures. There's a lot of other people from other parts of the world. But we do have inclusion training, and we have training that is mandatory, that reminds us of how to treat individuals with respect. So a code of ethics that is reviewed on a yearly basis as to what the plant expects from us as employees, and inclusion is covered in that. But I think beyond that, it just the fact that you're immersed and you work with people from so many different cultures, I think that makes you aware of how you have to treat people with respect. I believe the question is, what is an average entry level pay for automation engineers? Uh, last and yeah, I'm not looking for entry level, I guess, but I believe chemical engineers, and I would compare them to that, but maybe between 55 and 65,000 a year. So I think that's somewhere close. Don't quote me on that, but it has varied, and it's been a while since I've been looking for a job. So, but I think just from the last group of new engineers that came in, that I think that's in the ballpark, about between 55, 60, 65. What type of continuing education have you had to take? Is a PE required? Um, I will say this: PE is not required, but if I had any advice to give a new engineer is get your PE as soon as you can. I wish I would have done it. I never did. Continuing education is not formal. It is mostly what the company wants to train you in, or what you need for your field of work. But as far as a professional engineer, it is not required, but I wish I would have done it. And so one of the pieces of advice I would give any new engineer is pursue your professional engineer and get your license as soon as you can. The company will help with that as well. So that's another benefit.
Once again, thank you all. You all have a safe and healthy day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.